of the practicalities for the webinar. We've got 3 speakers making presentations, and participants, attendees of the webinar are very much encouraged to send their questions, comments, and anything they would like to add to the presentations. And you can do so using the chat function of the WebEx window, which is beside the participants on the top right. If you type this to me, the web host is ICLE Europe Web Conference. By writing to me using the chat function or writing to ICLE Web Conference, you will get a message through to me, and I will be able to relay the questions to the speakers. So just waiting on some people to join, and we are, I think, almost ready. So anyway, by way of introduction, I think everyone who has joined so far has some level of interaction with the PPI for Waste project, whether as a partner or as a participant in the interest group or other activities so far in the project. So the project, just to recap, it's coming to the end of its project cycle, but the PPI for Waste project is in its 3rd year. It involves 8 partners, and one of the activities of the project was the creation of an interest group and purchasing community, and those are hosted on the procurement forum, which is procurement-forum.eu. Currently, our interest group has gone from about 100 members when it began last year to about 165 members, and they are represented, or they represent stakeholders as public procurers themselves, as some from the private sector and other organizations, all looking at PPI in waste. So the previous webinars for the interest group took place in February and November 2016. The first one was What's Waste Worth? And the second one was entitled European Circular Economy Package, What Does It Mean for Me? And of course, that topic is one which has recently recapitulated, but for the purpose of the webinar today, we are really sort of at this stage in the project cycle, looking at some of the experiences and insights and some of the pilot activities that took place involving the partners on the project. So going to the agenda, today we have Fredrik Norefjell from the Research Institute of Sweden, and Fredrik's topic is about when to use PPI in the context of waste, and we'll speak about the process of deciding when to use a PPI and how to introduce PPI into the procurement process and the policy-making process with regard to waste. Then we have Marijan Galovic from ESPER in Zagreb, who will speak to some of the pilot activities which were completed in Zagreb as part of the project. And finally, we have Philippe Michaud-Naudet from ACR Plus, who are partners on the project, and he will reflect on some of the other projects and current trends going on in the field of waste management and sustainability and PPI more broadly. So each of the presenters are very happy to take questions, as I mentioned, which can be sent to me in the course of the presentation. They won't interrupt the presentation if you send them to me using the chat function to ICLE Europe Web Conference. And I will try to relay those to the speakers at the end of their presentation. And at the end, we can have a little bit of a wrap-up and a look to some of the upcoming activities in this project and others. So without further ado, I'll pass you over to Fredrik Norefjell, who you should hear from pretty shortly. And Fredrik will share with you, hopefully, his screen and presentation. Hello, Frederick.
Yes, hello, Fredrik
Hi.
Norefjell, Research Institute of Sweden. I hope you can hear me well.
Yes, thank you.
Right now, I'm not finding the place to click to share my presentation.
So if you go to share at the top on the left, the third drop-down menu. Yes.
So it looked a little bit different than when we tested before, but do you see the presentation?
Yes, it's working well at the moment.
Excellent. Okay. So I'll actually start with zooming out a little bit, going back to the beginning of the project to try to answer the question of when to use the PPI approach within waste management. This, for us in the project, seemed pretty obvious since we've been working on it for a couple of years now. But this was actually one of the questions we got in the midterm review when we met with the project officer that invited several other officers from other DGs and had external experts to review the project. And this was one of the issues that was discussed. How did we come to the pilot cases and the chosen needs that we are pursuing in the project? So how did we end up there? And I guess that could be useful for other similar projects or other interventions. So that's what I will try to explain. So what we did in the beginning of the project, we started looking at PPI from 3 perspectives, and to try to find the conditions that we need to make a successful procurement of innovation. And the first is pretty obvious. It's the EU Waste Challenge, that area, as discussed in the previous webinar with the circular economy package and the waste challenges as they are written into the European challenges. We also needed to look at the needs of the procurers and try to find common needs for a large body of procurers in Europe to try to find the leverage of buyers community. And we also had to look at the innovation system. We can't, in a PPI approach, look for what's on the market. We have to search for what's almost on the market, and that is actually quite a different thing. So looking at a lot of the other approaches and projects, we find that there is an overlap between the needs of municipalities and public organization and the waste challenges, but a lot of these procurements or activities are not necessarily driving innovation. So we can't settle for that type of activities. We also see that there is a lot of research and development going on within the business, the waste management business, to try to meet the circular economy challenges, but that are not all covered by the needs of the procuring organization. They are not having these targets as procurement targets, so we can't really go through with a PPI for that type of change. And then we also see there is a lot of needs to be met by European municipalities that there are innovative solutions for, but they are not really pursuing the future that the EU want us to pursue. For example, fixing things on landfills is not driving towards a future preferable situation. So the challenge in this project has been to find the targeted improvements, the best possible impact for our PPI actions, which is the number 4 in this slide, of course, where all these 3 perspectives overlap. And I will try to explain how we ended up here, which we think we have. So the first one is the simples. We have pretty much already the targets and the trends and all the things we need to do laid out by the European Union. The waste challenges are quite clear, and we know that we should follow the waste hierarchy and favor the solutions that are on the top of this pyramid, and avoid to target solutions that are on a lower level in the waste hierarchy. And the scope we have to work with is also set, because we are working with the waste management process. So it's only what we can solve within that scope that we can make the PPI activities within. There is a lot of work to be done by the municipalities, but it's done by policy making, by making the public being more participating in waste challenges. But we are only targeting the waste management chain or the waste management process. So we have to find procurement activities within that scope. So a little bit more difficult has been working with the common needs to find the things that are driving the innovation within waste management the most, and also to find common needs. This model, this funnel, is, you don't have to get it in detail, but it illustrates that we started out with a very large number of needs from municipalities within the project or within our initial interviews with experts. And we had to find ways to single out the most important needs to solve. And we spent quite a lot of time in the project trying to prioritize the needs. And here comes another slide. You don't need to pay too much attention to the details. This is illustrating how we did some of this work in a workshop. The spider graphs shows 3 different needs we were discussing. So there's a green line, there's a blue one, and a red one, illustrating the different needs. And on the axes in the spider graph are the aspects we were discussing within the consortium and with the invited experts. So, for example, we were looking at the efficiency gains if we would find solutions to these needs. And in this example, the green need was estimated to have a bigger efficiency gain impact if we could find a solution. And when we were looking at the scale-up potential, it also looks a little bit better. We saw that we could find leverage groups for this type of need. We find it to be more procurable. That is, that if this is something that as a function is possible to procure, or if procurement is just a part of the solution. But we, or in this example, the workshop participant thought that the green need was easier to procure a solution for. But on the next axis, the system level impact was estimated to be lower. So this is this example is more of a singular solution and not a full system change solution. In this case, the blue solution, whatever that was, had a bigger system level impact. But at the same time, we can see that the waste hierarchy level for the blue example was on a lower level. So we again see that the green example had a bigger impact on the waste hierarchy, or a higher level impact. And then we also added other aspects that we brought together into the aspect of eco-impact. And in this case, the green solution or need for solution didn't have the same expected eco-impact as the others. So trying to have all these aspects and weighing them together to pick the best needs to move forward with was a big task in this project, and a lot of work with the external experts and within the consortium. And we think that we picked good needs, but this is something that we haven't explained to everybody why we ended up with them. So in a lot of our work, this is what we present. We are working with the bio-waste collection and treatment challenge or need for a lot of municipalities. We're working with plastic separation, bulky waste, and the need for decision support systems for waste management. So these are the needs that we have sorted out, and for the rest of the work within the pilots, this is the focus within the project. So looking at these needs and what's going on in the state-of-the-art part section of this project, we've been looking then at within plastic separation, what is going on, what are the new developments emerging. For example, for plastic, there is a lot of new technology within sorting, with optical or way different type of solutions to separate different types of plastic with different characteristics and different values. So there is a lot of work going on there. We also see there is a lot of development in how to collect and especially how to use the bio-waste to try to separate it earlier from the bio-waste chain, and to get a more valuable residue to use as fertilizers or other aspects. So when looking at this, we also had to decide where is the innovation happening in relation to the need we're looking for. Having such a broad need as plastic separation, there's all kinds of innovations going on and all kinds of possibilities. So how could we bring some structure and some understanding into what will be the possible solutions to our procurements? That was the next challenge in the project, and we were calling this the system readiness, or the innovation system ability to bring forth solutions. So we've been addressing this using innovation systems technology. And that is simply looking at the area, for example, plastic separation, looking what actors are working within this field, who's providing solutions, how have those actors accessible technology, what's going on within the technology field, and how are the actors enabling new technology? What type of networks are facilitating this technology being brought into solutions and products that we might be able to procure? There is also, within most of these waste technology areas, there's a lot of institutional issues that needs to be favoring the new technology. There are standards that needs to be open enough for new type of technologies. There are health regulations and other type of institutional factors that we need to look at to understand if this new type of solutions are presenting something that we can procure directly. So we started looking at the innovation system structure, and then we added the dynamics of this system. What is pushing this system in the right direction, or in our direction of providing solutions? And then we have to look at these different factors of how is new knowledge communicated and diffused in this system. What is the system looking for? What is the direction of search? It might be obvious that if we have these EU challenges, we should be looking for solutions in this direction. But there might be a lot of other factors that make the business look for something that's more profitable short term, or something that's more popular and not necessarily in the same direction that our targets are going. How legit are different type of solutions? There might be new solutions that are challenging the old ways we do things, the old habits, and how legit are these new innovations tends to influence the way the business will develop, or the innovation system will develop. And are people willing to invest? Are there entrepreneurs? We saw that in a lot of these innovation systems, there were a lot of old, large actors that were the incumbents actors within the waste management systems that were actually not very innovative, not very progressive, and they were hindering a lot of these small entrepreneurial type firms that came up with new ideas. So how is that working within the industry or within the solution providers? Is there a scope enough for entrepreneurs to enter into this system? Is there a market forming? Is there a market for the plastic? If we collect it, could we have a second-hand market or a circular product, secondary product market? Provides a huge driving force, especially for plastic and bio-waste. There is a monetary value to the waste when it's processed. And of course, are there other positive externalities like taxes and subsidies and some other help towards this development? So this might sound complicated. We did this by interviews of experts, so we think that we got pretty much we got the experts to do a lot of the job for us, I think. So what we were doing then was that we were looking at these needs that we had chosen, and we were trying to look for the innovation system for each need. And trying to somehow assess if it was probable to have an innovation within this national innovation system, and what aspects, if not, was lacking. So I will show the Swedish example, if you look at for the bio-waste, you see there's a lot of green boxes there, and it represents quite well the business in Sweden. We have a lot of activities going on in bio-waste area. There's a lot of actors collecting and having digestion and factories, and it's the whole chain with car fuel and stations for fueling trucks, and there's a lot of network activities, technologies there. We can see that we don't have all the institutional factors 100%. There is some questions on some standards for car fuels, or what should be done with the residue from the bio-waste once you made biogas, and but basically it's quite green. What we don't have is a market that is for all of the bio-waste. There is a market for biofuels, but there is a lot of activities going on, and it's an area of interest from researchers and investors and the municipalities. It's a bit of a status thing for a municipality to have a bio-waste treatment plant, or actually having a biogas fueling station is something that each municipality want to pride itself of having. So I'd say that the innovation system for bio-waste type solutions in Sweden is quite strong. It's much more likely to express needs within the bio-waste area in a PPI approach and get a solution than if we look at the bulky waste. In this area, we have some entrepreneurial activities, some small-scale testing and some ideas, but it's not that type of support. We don't have that many actors. We do not have the institutional rules and regulations making sure that we can make a business out of these bulky waste entrepreneurial activities. There is no second-hand market and so on and so on. So going forth in Sweden, we would have quite difficult to make a PPI approach on bulky waste, and we have to be much more targeted in the approach towards some of these entrepreneurial experiments and activities going on, and not on a wider scale. So this is what we've been doing for all of the countries within the PPI waste consortia, and we made these matrices as guidance for the pilot partners and to help choose what activities to choose in their PPI approach. So they've been a little bit more informed when they're going forth with their procurement preparation activities. So our hope is that this process has targeted the best area to make PPI interventions in the pilots in the project. So I think that's the short version of what we've been doing for a couple of years.
Thank you very much indeed, Frederick. That was very interesting. And of course, it comes as no surprise that the two on your key indicators, the two most important ones were the institutions and what is available on the market. In that vein, I have one question coming from the participants, but in that vein, I just had a question myself. I wondered what, looking at the market as an important sort of player in identifying when PPI is a possible route, how was the process of getting the market to approach PPI and waste innovation with in the same strategic way as the procurer was approaching it? There must have been some sort of inevitable tension between the requirement for a short-term or medium-term profit with the long-term goals that the public procurer might be pursuing.
Ooh, I'm not sure I understood that full question, but
Well, I suppose what I mean is that when there were some entrepreneurial sort of elements to the procurement process from the procurer's angle was being enacted with the knowledge that there would have to be an entrepreneurial approach from the market that was responding to the procurement need. So I suppose my question was really about looking at the how if these are small entrepreneurial companies, how they get on the same. Was it the experience of within the project that they were able to get on the same sort of strategic wavelength as the procurer was on, or were they simply responding to, as they saw it, short-term sort of profits motives?
Well, I think it differs a lot from the different innovation systems, but I think that most of these actors, if I look at Sweden and biowaste, for example, they are working on a long-term thinking. They are looking at the biowaste sector as such and how it will be developed. There are long-term policies, there are investments in these facilities are quite long-term. So I think there is, in this area, what I call or the theory called the guidance of search and the legitimacy of the questions are really important, because they see that biowaste will be developed. A lot of municipalities have it in their plans. A lot of the big companies, the big waste companies are moving in this direction. So it makes sense to have a long-term plan. And I think in the biowaste sector, there is also a need to maybe not be too profitable in the beginning, because there's a lot of volume, economy of scale. So I think that it's not an area where there are too small entrepreneurs. It has to be, or at least entrepreneurs that have a more long-term stamina. I think so.
Okay, thanks for that. And the other question was sort of related to that, actually, which was looking at the legitimacy of the technical whether technological advance is legitimate. How were the how within the project and in your experience, how have local authorities been at establishing the legitimacy, the longevity of technological advances? It seems quite a risky sort of guess to be making when at the rate of technological advance that we can see in the waste management sector.
I think most of the new technologies also have some improvement on efficiency or how much energy could be from the biowaste, or how a higher percentage return. And so for a lot of new technology, there is a favorable business case for the procurer to make, but of course, with each pilot there is a risk. There is a risk of it not delivering the promises of the business case. And I think here the whole innovation system as such is supporting the risk taker. If you know that you're part of something bigger and you know that others are taking their parts, they are developing this incremental step by step. Someone bought a little bit better a machine, and then you buy something that might be a little bit better. Then it's much easier to take the risk, because it's in some ways it's shared and it's within a general idea of this is the direction we are going. This is not like betting on something that is completely different from what everybody else is betting on. So I say that the public has been, of course, the key as the first customer, taking the risk of each of these pilots, always been a PPI or a proper procurement, making the first one. But it's not like they take all the risk, because they are within the whole system change, I'd say.
Okay, well, thank you very much indeed, Frederick. That was a very interesting presentation, and looking at the time, I think in order to fit the three presentations into the time that we have, I'm going to pass on to Marijan Galovic, who might be able to share his screen with everyone. So hello, Marijan. I think you're now unmuted. We should be able to hear you now.
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. Well, once again, hello everyone. It's Marijan Galovic from Croatia. Some of you already know me from previous activities. And yes, I will be presenting some pilot project activities from City of Zagreb, where I've been working for, let's say, more than 12 years. And I'm not a great fan of how Zagreb is performing in general. But these two pilot project activities actually did give us some results and some conclusions, which can be later on actually included in any of the procurement, or even, let's say, create a basis for future procurement for example, for treatment options, etc. So I'm part of this project as a supportive expert to the Čistoća Zagreb company, who is a partner, an official partner in this project. And both of the pilot projects which I will be presenting were developed by Mr. Libic, who is responsible person from this inside this project. So the first pilot project is Mamutica, and four other different locations. Mamutica is actually the biggest residential flat in Zagreb, and probably also in Croatia, as the building herself has more than 10,000 inhabitants, divided in 15 entrances, 15 main entrances, and each of those units, these entrances, have their own waste collection points. So basically, it's a project that was run for a year in 2011 and beginning in 2012. And basically, it was the first large-scale pilot project where separate collection of waste was introduced. Just to give you some insight, City of Zagreb is currently the worst capital of Europe in terms of waste separate collection and recycling. Based on municipal utility company, Zagreb recycles currently around 2% of its waste, and from current statistics, it can already now be clear that the city officials did not learn from these pilot projects, but hopefully in the future there will be some improvement. So basically, on the three spots, on the three locations, system without bio-waste collection was introduced, while on two locations the system included also separate collection of bio-waste together with separate collection of plastics, glass, and paper. The obtained results on site show that, of course, where the bio-waste was separately collected, there were significantly higher results, and where the bio-waste was not separately collected, the results were really actually poor. We have drawn some conclusions based on those results. And the most worrying fact was that the total production of waste collected from different parts of the same city was substantially different. So in Dubrava area, the average production of waste was above 800 kilograms, and in Mamutica, in the target residential flat, we had only 257 kilograms per person. Basically, this data show us that when the collection is planned door to door, in sense that each of the entrances has its own collection point, the total production of waste is lower than the site where the containers are located on streets and left accessible to everyone. In the sense of total collection costs on the pilot project, it was concluded that the costs were 9.6% higher than, compared to the business as usual scenario. But I will show you some data afterwards. If we count in also the savings from recycling, the pilot project was actually more economically sound than the business as usual scenario. We will further on analyze the Mamutica case, which got 13.5% of separate collection in the end. So basically, I'm starting with the mistake. I'm showing you a typical mistake that city officials in Croatia do, and this mistake is wrong volume and or wrong frequency of waste collection. So you see 2 paper containers and 1 plastic container full already on Friday, while the pickup day is Monday. This is definitely a mistake that costs not only visible damage for the surrounding citizens, but also this triggers also the lack of trust from citizens towards the system. And I don't know if you see my mouse moving around, you will see a lot of pizza cases on the left. This is also one of the mistakes that was done during the pilot project. This is another picture from the similar from the same location. This is Monday. So basically, once you make all the containers full on Friday, the waste won't disappear until Monday, and all the families that recycle during the weekends are basically forced to either dispose their recyclables in the wrong bins, either forced to leave the recyclables on the street, which is basically, as I said again before, this is a big mistake towards trust and towards the acceptance of the citizens towards the pilot project. So the lessons we learned from Mamutica is that collection frequency and or container volume was not planned properly. I'm personally a fan of correcting the frequency of collection, as container volume is sometimes an issue for the smaller spaces. Of course, as I said, before, we got there reasonably good cooperation with the citizens. However, the responsible were not actually flexible and or timely in the response when the citizens were calling them that containers are full. As it's visible also from the pictures before, separately collected paper, but also other materials ended up in a mixed waste bin, as usually on Mondays. Collection wasn't just enough for the whole week. Good thing that we have learned, but it's also quite logical, that the volume of the mixed or residual waste per each of the entrances was definitely reduced, and there was still possibility to reduce it if there was a proper frequency of the collection planned in the beginning. Here are some tips that we took out of the pilot project for the future activities that and what has to be included in the future procurement in general, but also in the process of developing new waste management plan or program. Special attention should be given towards the joint spaces in the flats where there is a need for placing 4 or more additional containers. Special attention in terms of course, in terms of frequency, but also in terms of reaction when there are some anomalies in the system. Some of the mitigation measures could also be that if there is not enough space in the joint spaces inside the building, wheelie bins for paper collection could be also placed in the corridors next to mailboxes, which we learned from many cases, not only in Italy but also in Croatia. The business sector shouldn't be part of the regular collection system, or their waste production should be separately analyzed, and the bins should be planned according to the needs of the business. I'm telling you this because of the pizza boxes next to the containers that were used for the residential flats and like normal families, etc. And one thing that could have helped to the users and to the company is to introduce at least one small vehicle in the collection system, especially for the emergency pickups, because small vehicles can really effectively collect several types of waste, and the cost of such vehicles is not that big as the big lorries that Zagreb City company is currently using. Of course, there is always place for optimize the organizational impact, organizational measures inside the company, like duration time, pickup timing with the owners of the flat, and just to ensure that the bins will be outside of these joint spaces on time, or just to leave the keys to the operators. Both of the things can be successfully managed, and I'm personally really satisfied with how it works in Milan, in Italy, where often citizens do take care of their own waste inside the flat and bring outside on the street their brown containers for biowaste, for example. Second pilot project is more recent, but it was only implemented for 2 months in 2015, but also on really a large number of users. We had more than 5,000 users in residential flats and more than 1,000 users in private households. The users from group in residential flats used separately collected residual and bio-waste with specially marked bags, while the users from private households used their own separate collection waste bins. Residual waste was collected 2 times per week, and bio-waste was collected once per week. And for the purpose of the pilot project, additional separate waste collection street points were installed in the area. So bio-waste and residual waste was collected basically door to door, while other materials like dry recyclables were collected on streets, like bring system. Good things we learned from this testing is that quite a lot of bio-waste was actually separately collected, and the purity of the materials was really outstanding. Basically, just 2.2% of impurities is probably the best result in Croatia and in City of Zagreb ever. And total performance of the pilot project testing was 31% of separate collection, which is well over the regular company performance. So you can see already from this data that just replicating this system in the entire city, we can improve the performance significantly. And of course, the investments in the system, what is visible from the previous pilot project, are not that high. It's just on the collection, 10% of increasing the cost could be easily mitigated with landfill savings. But the problem with this pilot project was that we were actually testing from the beginning a ludicrous pay-as-you-throw system with leaving the street containers physically on the streets, and we were testing a bag system. We were testing the bag system for counting and creating personalized waste bills for the citizens. Basically, it was 100% concluded that pay-as-you-throw cannot be implemented through the street collection system. The share of returned bags was only 2.2%. So basically, on 100 bags that were free of charge given to the citizens, free of charge, of course, during the pilot project testing, only 2 bags were returned. This is really, actually really a shame, but it was expected from the beginning that it will not work. And 46.4% of bags did return in terms of bio-waste collection. The share of return bags could be even smaller if the system was fully implemented on pricing. This is also a sad result, but the overall performance of the system was did actually give good results in terms of separate collection. But of course, with this failure of testing the pay-as-you-throw system, I have to be honest here that this system was not either developed or created by the company Čistoća of Zagreb. Čistoća was the one doing the informational campaign and running the pilot project, but the system was invented by politicians in the city assembly that were forcing to create a pay-as-you-throw system, and came with this idea, which actually never worked anywhere, but we had to show them that it will not work either in Zagreb. So basically, one of the major recommendations would be not to leave politicians to create the system. They can set goals, but they cannot create the rules without the experiences. A lesson learned from both of the projects and for future replication of the project is to develop the plan for collection systems in sense of frequency of collection, volumes, type of materials, of course, to plan it as realistically as possible, analyze possibilities for placing containers inside the backyard or inside the flats. Removing containers from the street increases both the quantity of separate collection and increases the quality of separately collected waste. You have to purchase the right containers for the separate collection. Of course, you need to have a regular contact with citizens, and you should have also an informational plan with project in details, and please avoid wrong information for the citizens in terms of changing the date of introduction of the system, as any mistake in the communication with the citizens are punished with lower participation in citizens' trust. Velika Gorica is the project I was working on, and Velika Gorica is a city really connected to Zagreb, and there I have designed a project, pilot project of separate collection of dry recyclable materials also in big residential flats, and this system in really short time increased the efficiency of the city-wide separate collection level from 8 to 19% of separate collection on the city level, which basically means that the residential buildings were recycling almost all the dry recyclable waste they can, as the flats count only 33% of total residents. Of course, when I say that the calculations for the project should be accurate in terms for any procurement or in terms of organizing the business, you have to be aware of volumes of the containers in the flat, volume of the truck designed for the pickup. You need to have accurate database of residents in the flat, and of course, these are all the data that you have to use for the procurement of the service if you are actually organizing a tender for a service provider. Basically, you can have a tender written on one page, and then you'll get a service that will be good for a month, and then you will have 11 months of problems with the service provider. And the other option is to design everything in detail, basically to indicate the expected performance of the system, and then you can have also an effective procurement for the service by the provider. Basically, I came to an end, and I hope I drove you a bit outside of the research and let's say theoretical topics outside towards the real life problem of the or the system organization. Okay.
Thank you very much indeed, Marianne. And just looking at time, I'm just going to pass on a couple of very quick questions to you so that we can get Philippe's presentation underway soon. But I think both questions relate to both projects, really. The first was in reference to the communication of the changes in, for example, collection systems. In the first project, you referred to, container volume being important and the frequency and timing of collection being something which is critical. But I suppose how much focus was given to the communication of these changes to the citizens, and are there any sort of broad lessons that maybe could be transferred to other pilot projects for that?
Well, the first project, the Mammoth, it's one that had slightly worse results. The problem was that there was no appropriate reaction to the needs on the ground. So basically, the trust has disappeared once the problem started. And basically, if you don't react and change the system within a week, 2 weeks, you will get these images all the time. So basically, this is not a communication problem. This is a timely reaction problem.
A reaction problem. I see. Yes. And
for the second project, which had a really good result for Zagreb, 31%. The information campaign there was brilliant, and I believe it gave the best. It gave the best, and the results were actually surprisingly good for me. Of course, it can always be better, but those results are 15 times better than the normal performance of the city.
And just briefly, Marianne, noting those results, in terms of replication, I mean, how transferable are these lessons within Croatia? Does Zagreb have any, does it have the common challenges with the other cities in Croatia, or is it, are the problems that were sort of encountered, were they sort of specific to Zagreb locally?
Well, Zagreb and City of Split have similar issues, and those are the cities that have the largest number of big residential flats. And so far, what is similar between those two is that they lack political will of changing the system. So currently, you have a street container for paper, I don't know, every 2 kilometers, and I'm also not keen walking 2 kilometers just for placing few cardboard sheets or a bit of paper. That's just not working.
Yes. No, that's great. Thank you very much indeed, Marianne. And I'm just going to move quickly from your presentation over to Philippe, because I want Philippe to be able to present the full thing within the thing. But thank you very much indeed. And perhaps if we have some time afterwards, we might come back if there are any more questions. Okay. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Hello, Philippe.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for your patience, and thank you also to Frederick and Marianne for the very interesting presentations. I think that, Marianne, we need to discuss a little bit about the practicalities of the implementation in Zagreb regarding the the pay-as-you-throw and the selective collection. That would be very interesting indeed. I will now share my screen, which is, this is a little bit different.
So if you go to share at the top,
yeah.
it should be my screen underneath. Yeah, it's working now.
So there you go. So the purpose of my presentation is to give a little bit of general considerations and experience from other projects regarding public procurement of innovation and waste management. So very, very briefly, for those who do not know ACR+, we are an association of cities and regions, and we are in charge of promoting good practices and the exchange of experience between the members. And you can see some of them here, and the City of Zagreb is actually one of those members. We have developed a specific initiative on circular economy, the Circular Europe Network, to connect experts and to provide some specific tools like guidelines on circular economy strategies and database of good practice on circular economy actions and overall strategies in Europe. This database gathers 150 cases in Europe. And we are also working on building capacities of cities and regions staff on circular economy strategies. And among these activities of capacity building, we have trainings and webinars. We have been implementing that already since a few months, and the next webinars are already scheduled on sustainable tourism this Friday, on urban agriculture in April, local and regional authorities supporting and engaging SMEs in May, procurement in June, etc., etc. And we also have a physical training course taking place in Venice in the beginning of July, with lectures, workshops, site visit of Cantarina, and also the possibility to network and showcase the participants' practices. So in terms of general consideration regarding the public procurement of innovation, the idea is really to take into consideration the fact that investment and procurement must take into account the long-term perspective of circular economy and progressively encourage the transition towards a more circular model of consuming and disposing of the resources and using of the resources. And the idea is not to antagonize technological innovation and social innovation. Both are complementary. If you take, for instance, the technical innovation in terms of sorting, like it has been already mentioned by Fredrik in some of the cases, plastic sorting technology. This is something that is completely complementary to having a selective collection scheme that will change helps the citizens to change their behavior in terms of how they will dispose the waste that they don't use anymore. So really, the public procurement has to take into consideration those two aspects, so technological innovation and social innovation. And public procurement of innovation can be both, actually. So you have here the examples related to taxes, pay-as-you-throw schemes, and the implementation of selective collection schemes via bins, for instance, sorting bins. You have mobile civic amenity sites at the bottom, and also appropriate collection trucks and sorting systems facilities. Also, it is very important to take into account that the waste hierarchy should guide procurement decisions related to waste management, and to really keep waste prevention at the top of any consideration regarding material and material resources and waste management. So investing in innovation should aim to climb up this waste hierarchy and enable and facilitate the prevention of waste as much as possible, and then prepare for use, and of course ensure an efficient recycling and recovering of materials and so that the energy recovery and the disposal of waste are really banned from the practices. Key fractions to consider are also very important to keep in mind. It has been mentioned already by Frederick that the common needs that have been analyzed in the PPI for Waste project were related to some of those fractions. So the organic fraction, it's something that is very key in terms of management of the waste in the municipalities, for instance, because this is something that all municipalities have to face, and the organic fraction can really contaminate the other fractions, the dry fractions, and end up in a very low quality of the output materials after the recycling stage, after the sorting stage. I will come back to that later. Plastics is also a key fraction because of its diversity, because of its potential very bad impact, very strong negative impact on the environment, and the fact that we are using plastics at all of moments of our daily lives. So this is really a key issue and a key fraction to consider in the waste management strategies of public authorities. And finally, mixed fractions, including in particular bulky waste, are really fractions that would need to be taken into consideration, because for those fractions there is no one single solution, and as I mentioned, these are mixed fractions aggregating several types of materials, and you can't just say, okay, we will have one fit for all solution for bulky waste. So efficient system must also be taken into consideration for the strategies and therefore for the investments for all of these three fractions. So I will now pass through briefly some complementary and integrated approaches regarding waste management. And the first one is to keep in mind that waste prevention can stimulate sustainable production and consumption and support virtuous behavior regarding waste management, and therefore it is essential for public authorities to invest in these activities, be it awareness raising campaigns or local initiatives like reuse centers and reuse networks that can be subsidized by the public authorities, but also to keep in mind that local implementation can also mean decentralized actions and not necessarily centralized. So promoting home composting and making that available by enabling the citizens to have cheap or free composting bins. This is also something that can help to change the behavior and to reduce the burden on the official and public collection of the residual fractions and the waste fractions in general. So also to keep in mind, and it has already been mentioned, separate collection at the source is key. If you need to, if you want to have a good output after the sorting or treatment of the fractions that will be collected by the public authorities or by the private authorities for the industrial waste or the commercial waste, you really need to have a scheme that enables the citizens and the waste producers to sort their waste at the source. For that, you need the right infrastructure for the households, and I agree with Marianne regarding the difficulty to deal with multi-households, dwellings, and buildings. And here, one of the key elements is to make sure that there is a kind of social effect and social pressure. If your neighbor is not implementing the same scheme than you are, then you will be less keen to implement and to respect the rules that have been settled. So clarity in terms of the rules that are applicable, in terms of scheduling the time and the frequency, in terms also of the area that will be covered. This is something that is important to take into account. You need to have the right scheme, you need to have the appropriate material, so the right schedule, the right timing, and efficient collection systems, be it from the truck or the deposit stations where the people can bring their waste before it's collected. After the collection, the management facilities and the treatment facilities are essential and are a key element for the investments. So, as I mentioned, if you want to have a good output fraction and a good results, you need to have the input fraction of a good quality, and this is really important. If you have a look at all the facilities that are doing, for instance, mechanical and biological treatments of waste, the quantity of refuse and of impurities that are still present at the output of the system are really something that is very, very frequent for this kind of facility. So there is no technological miracle, at least at the time being. So we must rely on also the good citizen behavior, and this is something that needs to be taken into account when you prepare the waste management strategies, to invest sufficiently in the efficiency of the scheme so that the material that will be provided to the treatment facilities will be of good quality, because otherwise, if you don't have this sufficient quality before arriving to the treatment facility, the outputs will be so low that the recyclers and the market will not uptake this material and this output fraction, because the quality will be too low. Therefore, you will just lose time, money, and indeed, as it has been mentioned, the credibility of the users of the system. So now I will move to some projects where ACR Plus has been involved or have seen some interesting potential or results in terms related to the various fractions that I mentioned before. The first project is called Decisive. That's a research project on the decentralized management of urban bio-waste, and the objective is to demonstrate the ability to decrease the generation of urban waste from household and assembly and increase recycling and recovery by focusing the efforts on decentralized management and the valorization of organic waste in a short cycle. So really, the idea is to try to implement decentralized solutions for the recovery of bio-waste. It is something that is quite innovative. The idea is to use micro-scale anaerobic digestion plants that will have the possibility to be developed on the basis of the needs of the waste producers, for instance, farms or big producers, big food waste producers like in restaurants areas and so on. And the idea is also to develop technologies related to the fermentation process. So there will be different tools that will be investigated and developed during the project, and there will be demonstration in order to validate the results of the project in Lyon, in France, in an urban farm area, and also in Catalonia in a more rural and urban, and city context, to see, for instance, with the restoration sector restaurants, in order to check if this is something that is, if there is a room for uptaking the solution that has been investigated during the project. The second case I would like to mention is the plastic waste recovery case from the Netherlands, where they have been collecting all types of packaging waste in order to increase the scale of the system, and also to make economies of scales. So the procurement process was interesting because they had it included a long-term agreement between the municipalities and the producers via an amendment in the EPR scheme that was implemented in the Netherlands. And this agreement included to increase progressively the recovery targets, but it also included quality standards. So the idea was to have a high degree of purity and a very low rate of impurities and residues. For instance, for foils and for the various types of plastics. For foils, for instance, the idea was to have a level of purity of 92% and a maximum residues of less than 4%. If you take mixed plastics packaging, the idea was to have 90% of purity. So the idea was really to set up high recycling targets and high purity targets in order to motivate the system users to do all their parts. The procurement focused on the output of the recycling with a system of bonus and maluses depending on the quality and the level of recycling. And in the end, altogether, this system helped to achieve a good level of results. You can see maybe in the graph on the bottom right side of the screen, the part of the results. So in the end, they increased by 3 times the quantity of recycled plastics. It was easy because they decided to collect all the plastics packaging together. And in the end, the costs per ton of plastics was reduced because of the economies of scales. However, the counterpart was that the overall cost of the system increased and more than doubled, because even though the cost per ton was reduced, the quantity increased so much that in the end the system was more expensive than the old one. So you have to take that into account. Still, the system is very efficient, and those quality standards by type of plastic, for instance, PET, PP, or foil, hard plastics, this is something that helped to really have a good quality of the plastic waste that was sorted and that was treated afterwards. The next project is the Urban Rec project, and the point of this project is to implement integral bulky waste management by improving the logistics and the separation and disassembly process for bulky waste. So the idea was to enhance the collection by means of new communication channels with citizens, such as a mobile app and website, evaluation of recycling patterns in connection with factors such as gender, sex, age, location, but also to enhance the reuse by a creation of a network of social companies and non-profit associations to enhance the reuse aspects of bulky waste. And the second side was to improve the separation and disassembly processes with a focus on civic amenity sites management, and by also implementing advanced reductional separation technologies like fragmentation or 3D cut to obtain a high quality of raw materials from fractions that are now considered as problematic, like foam, wood, mixed hard plastics, and mixed textiles. And also the idea was to promote innovative valorization routes for the obtained products, including the assessment of economic feasibility. So the idea was really to have a focus on specific fractions through among subfractions among the bulky waste, so mattresses, amongst textiles, hard plastics, etc., and to use various types of systems, both from the social side and the technological side. And there are 4 implementation territories in Belgium, Spain, Poland, and Turkey. So you can find more information about the project on the website. The project just started, so the results are still to be developed and demonstrated within this implementation territory. The last project I wanted to mention is the European Week for Waste Reduction, because, as I mentioned, the procurement can be implemented in the field of awareness raising. This is something that is a key component of efficient waste management strategies. And the week is the biggest awareness raising campaign in the EU regarding material resources and waste management. And I encourage really all the stakeholders to take part in this initiative and to cooperate with the national or regional coordinators, and to really take this opportunity to have a kind of a large and a broad umbrella initiative to foster their activities. As I mentioned, the idea behind procurement strategies is really to take into account the whole cycle of the projects, and to already start to prepare the transition towards circular economy using all types of instruments, regulatory instruments, and economic instruments, technological instruments, but also awareness raising and research instruments. And even for that, public procurement can be helpful, because you can ask for consultancy offices to help you to design the strategy. You can segment the various elements of this strategy in order to have PPI for some of them, or regular public procurement for others. So really, having the broad picture in mind should really help to strive the public procurement strategy, and to conduct in a more circular way, in a more sustainable way.
So thank you very much indeed, Philippe. That was very interesting indeed, and there's plenty to think about in terms of what's going on in other sort of projects that are ongoing, and the technological advances that have been made in terms of separation and other issues since even PPI for waste got underway. So I wonder, I've had a couple of questions on the chat function. They're quite quick, so perhaps I can give you both of them and you can answer them directly. So the first one was who managed the plastics trial in the Netherlands, and the second was at what scale the micro anaerobic digesters were currently available.
So for the first one, the management of the system is made by the Dutch Ministry of the Environment. So it's really the scheme is really promoted at the national level, which ensures also the good implementation at the local level, because all the municipalities have to implement the same rules, and you have less risks of free riders to try to escape the system. So this was really a good initiative, and that was promoted by the national government, and that helps to facilitate also the agreements between the producers, the EPR organizations, and the municipalities. And for the second question, the scale, I don't know exactly in terms of quantities of bio-waste that is decentralized facilities can accept, but this is really a project where you have the possibility to have very small scale, very small quantities of bio-waste that will be dealt compared to centralized facilities, like it's the case, for instance, in Zagreb or Sofia or other municipalities where you have this kind of centralized approach. So here the idea is really to have large producers who can be independent with the management of their bio-waste, for instance, at a farm level or within the area of restaurants, in order to avoid having to rely on maybe complicated centralized system.
Thank you very much indeed, Philip, and thanks for the questions from the attendees. So, well, that brings our webinar more or less to a close. We've already gone 2 minutes over time, but thanks for, especially to Philip for being so concise. He was dealt the sort of short straw in terms of the amount of time allowed, but I think we covered everything. So I'm just going to quickly mention a project going on here, especially seeing as this is the last of our webinars, which will be conducted in the context of PPI for Waste for the Interest Group. And that project is called Urban Wins, which has just begun, which is a pilot, a project with 8 pilot cities across Europe, and using the urban metabolism approach looks at ways of seeing waste as a resource and reducing or eradicating waste as a concept in those municipalities where the activities are being tested, and quite a lot of that is to do with engagement with citizens and how they are a part of the decision-making process and the implementation of waste management strategies and projects in the cities. But you can have a look at that in your own time. There's a rather flashy sort of video that I can send around after the webinar is over, which sort of sets out what Urban Wins is all about. And secondly, just the final project conference is for PPI for Waste is happening in late May. The details of that are currently being finalised, but they will be shared as well in the coming period, and you can put that in your diary. So without detaining you any further, thank you very much for what has been a very interesting discussion. And I will follow up with a few emails just about some of the content, and you can follow as well the discussion on the procurement forum in the discussion group, of which I think everyone on this list is a member. So I hope you all have a pleasant afternoon or evening wherever you happen to be, and thanks again, and thanks to all the panelists too.